All right, let's talk about something that I bet hits close to home for a lot of you. We're diving into the data mesh, a really big idea that's all about fixing a major and super common headache in the data world. So let me just ask you, does this sound familiar? Your data team, are they kind of a bottleneck? Are you stuck in what feels like an endless line just waiting for a simple data pull that you need to, actually do your job? Yeah, if you're nodding your head right now, trust me, you are not alone. This is a super common problem. It's basically the classic sign that your data architecture is starting to crack under the pressure of just growing. So, what we've really got here is a tale of two architectures. It's the old way versus the new way. On one side, you've got the traditional data monolith. It's centralized, it's slow, and honestly, it can be pretty fragile. And on the other side, you've got the data mesh, decentralized, nimble, and really designed to scale with you. Okay, so before we get to the solution, let's really dig into the problem. Let's talk about the data monolith and why it causes so much pain for so many companies. So, what are we even talking about when we say data monolith? Well, picture this: one single central team that's responsible for everything data related, from pulling the data in to cleaning it up to serving it out to the whole company. And look, this might work when you're small, but as you grow, it just doesn't scale. It hits a wall hard. And the fallout from this is, well, it's pretty rough. That central team gets absolutely buried under a mountain of tickets. They become ticket takers, right? And because they're so removed from the day-to-day business, they don't have the context for all the data, which can lead to big mistakes. The whole system gets fragile, making any change feel super risky, and innovation just slows to a crawl. Okay, so we've established the monolith is the problem. So what's the answer? Well, this is where the data mesh comes in, and it completely flips that old model on its head. The big idea here is decentralization. Instead of one team trying to do everything, a data mesh says, hey, let's give ownership of the data to the people who actually understand it. The experts in their own domain. The marketing team owns marketing data, the finance team owns finance data, and so on. Makes sense, right? Honestly, the best way to think about it is this. It's like microservices, but for data. You know how microservices took these huge, clunky applications and broke them down into small, independent services? Data Mesh does the exact same thing for your data platform. It breaks that big monolith down into these smaller, manageable, domain-owned data products. And this is really important. A data mesh isn't just about new tools or technology. It's a whole new way of thinking, a real shift in your operating model, and it's all built on four core principles. So here are the four pillars that hold the whole thing up. First, you've got that decentralized domain ownership we just talked about. Second, and this one is a huge mindset shift, is treating your data as a product. Third, you need a self-serve data platform to empower everyone. And finally, number four, you need federated computational governance to make sure it doesn't all turn into chaos. Okay, out of all of those, I want to double-click on number two, because it's probably the most important shift of all: data as a product. This means you stop thinking of data as just some technical exhaust, a byproduct of your applications. Instead, you start treating it like a real product. It has customers. It needs to be high quality. It has standards. So what does a good data product actually look like? Well, for starters, people have to be able to find it. It needs to be discoverable. It needs to be easy to access or addressable. Of course, it absolutely has to be trustworthy. It should also be self-describing, so you know what you're looking at. And then you have interoperability, security, and the big one: it has to actually be useful to someone. Okay, so that's the theory. It all sounds amazing, right? But the big question is, how do you actually do this? How do you bring this concept to life? Well, that's where a tool like dbt really shines. For anyone who doesn't know, dbt, which stands for Data Build Tool, is a framework that brings software engineering best practices to the world of analytics. It lets your team transform data right inside your warehouse using things like version control, automated testing, and documentation, all with the language they already know and love: SQL. And what's so cool is how perfectly dbt's features line up with those four data mesh principles. You want to treat data as a product? Great, you've got dbt models, tests, and docs. You need domain ownership? You can set up multiple, totally independent dbt projects. Federated governance? That's where things like model contracts come in. And that self-serve platform, the dbt Cloud UI basically gives you that out of the box. But here's the real kicker.
The technical magic that makes this all possible is dbt's ability to let you reference models across different projects. Think about that for a second. One team can build on top of another team's finished data product without ever having to copy code or move data around. It's a total game changer. All right, let's make this super concrete. Let's walk through a simple example. Picture two teams. You've got your central data team building some core foundational data, and then you've got the finance team, and they need to use that data for their reports. So here's how this mini mesh is born. Step 1, the central team builds a really solid, trusted model. Let's call it FCT orders. Step 2, they turn it into a stable data product with a model contract. Now, over in a completely separate project, the finance team can just reference it. And with that, they can build their own reports, say for segment revenue, all on their own without filing a single ticket. The result? Two teams working in sync, but totally independent. So in this picture, the central team's job is clear. They create and maintain this core data product, the FCT orders table. They're the owners. They're the ones guaranteeing that it's stable and accurate. And now look at the finance team's side. All they have to do is use this simple ref function in their code. It's like a magic pointer. They don't need to know all the messy, complex logic that went into building that orders table. They just get to consume a clean, reliable, trustworthy data product. It's that easy. So, let's step back for a second. Why should you care about any of this? What's the real takeaway here? What's the actual business impact of doing things this way? It really boils down to a few huge wins. First, you shatter that data bottleneck we talked about at the beginning. You empower your teams with autonomy so they can move way faster. The quality and trust in your data goes way up because now the owners are the experts. And maybe most importantly, all your data work gets directly tied to the parts of the business that actually create value. So I'll leave you with one final thought. Moving to a data mesh is so much more than just a tech project. It's a cultural shift. It's a new mindset. And it forces you to ask a really simple but really powerful question. If our data is a product, then who are our customers? And are we really doing a good job of serving them?